Hello everyone, my name is Ayman Reffai. I am a PhD student affiliated with the Biomedical Genomics and Oncogenetics Research Lab at the Faculty of Science and Technology of Tangier in Morocco. First of all, I would like to thank Beyond Sciences Initiative for this opportunity to present my work entitled Epidemiological and Clinical Study of Nasopharyngeal Cancer in Northern Morocco. First, I'll start by presenting the background, the problems and objective of the study, followed by patients and methods, results and discussion, and finally a conclusion. So, what is nasopharyngeal cancer and why it is important to study it? Nasopharyngeal cancer is a complex disease distinguished from other cancers of the head and neck by its geographic distribution and its etiology, including Epstein-Barr virus. It occurs most often in the epithelial cells lining the interior of the nasopharynx, which is the highest part of the pharynx, as you can see on the figure in blue, located behind the nose, deep under the base of the skull. So according to the most recent classification of the World Health Organization, histological types of nasopharyngeal cancer are defined as keratinizing squamous cell carcinomas and non-keratinizing carcinomas. The second type is subdivided into differentiated carcinomas and undifferentiated carcinomas, which are the most common histological type of NPC, representing more than 90% of cases. Other types such as glandular tumors and lymphomas are rare. In the early stages of the disease, nasopharyngeal cancer may not cause any symptoms. They appear as the tumor grows in nearby organs or spreads to cervical lymph nodes. The most common clinical sign of nasopharyngeal cancer is cervical masses caused by lymphadenopathy. Other symptoms can be grouped into rhinological signs such as nasal obstruction, otological signs like hearing loss, eye signs, neurological signs, and headaches. Nasopharyngeal carcinoma is a radiosensitive tumor very rarely accessible for surgery due to its complex anatomy, which makes radiotherapy the first choice for treating early stages. Although concurrent radiochemotherapy is the standard curative treatment for NPC, showing improved clinical outcomes and patient survival. It can be preceded by inductive chemotherapy or followed by adjuvant chemotherapy to treat locally advanced stages of NPC. Recently, studies and clinical trials are focusing on new treatment modalities such as immunotherapy, gene, and targeted therapies. Nasopharyngeal cancer has a special geographic distribution. Although rare in North America and Europe, nasopharyngeal carcinoma is one of the most common cancers in Southeast Asia and North Africa, including Morocco. According to the International Agency for Research on Cancer, in 2020, the age-standardized incidence rates of NPC are less than 1 per 100,000 persons in most countries such as the United States of America and Europe, and it is more than 1 between 2 and 10 per 100,000 persons in endemic areas such as China, Malaysia and Singapore in Southeast Asia, and Morocco and Algeria in North Africa. In most endemic regions, and specifically Asia, the peak incidence is between 45 and 55 years old. However, in North Africa, NPC affects two peaks of age. The first major one is between 45 and 55 years old, and the second, the young one, is between 10 and 20 years old. Nasopharyngeal cancer has a remarkable sex disparity with a higher risk for males. According to most studies, the sex ratio is 2 to 3 men per woman. So this type of cancer is a highly complex multifactorial disease caused by an interaction between genetic and environmental factors such as Epstein-Barr virus, which is the major risk factor, dietary factors such as dried and salted fish and meat containing nitrosamines, toxic substances such as smoke, dust, especially wood dust, and chemical products like formaldehyde. Other factors such as insufficient ventilation and contact with agriculture were also reported. The genetic factors are mainly family history and predisposition genes, molecular alterations including mutations, deletions, single nucleotide polymorphisms, copy number variations, as well as HLI system polymorphism. So the two problematics of this research project were, first, the majority of patients are diagnosed at an advanced stage of NPC. This could be explained by the non-specific nature of the symptoms and the complex anatomy of the nasopharynx, which makes NPC a late diagnosis cancer, causing a major health problem. Second, nasopharyngeal cancer is one of the most common cancers in Morocco, as is the case in other endemic areas. However, very few studies have been done in this regard, which is why this study aimed to carry out an epidemiological clinical study of nasopharyngeal cancer in northern Morocco by determining its epidemiological aspects and its clinical pathological, therapeutic, and survival factors in order to better understand this disease and improve patients' care and prevention. Regarding patients and methods, this epidemiological and clinical study was conducted on patients diagnosed with nasopharyngeal cancer and followed or treated at the Regional Center of Oncology of Tangier in the period between 2017 and 2019. It is a retrospective study of 129 NPC patients. To the best of our knowledge, it is the first study of its kind in northern Morocco. So data were collected from medical records of NPC patients using technical sheets and then classified in a database. Statistical analysis was performed using SPSS software version 23, where quantitative variables were presented as central tendency indicators, including the mean and the median, and qualitative variables were expressed as frequencies or percentages. The survival analysis was performed using the Kaplan-Meier method, in which the overall survival was calculated from the date of diagnosis until the date of last news or death. The level of significance was set at a p-value less than or equal to 0.05. We note that the confidentiality of information collected and the anonymity of patients was ensured. Concerning the prevalence, nasopharyngeal cancer represented 5% of all cases recorded at the Regional Center of Oncology of Tangier between 2017 and 2019. On the national level, our prevalence was higher than that found in Casablanca, according to the Cancer Registry of Casablanca, and almost similar to that found in Rabat by Reffai et al. On the international level, the prevalence of nasopharyngeal cancer for a 3-year period was 3.3%, according to the International Agency for Research on Cancer. Regarding sex, our results showed a higher risk for males, with a sex ratio of 1.93 male per female. Of the 129 patients, 65.9% were males and 34.1% were females. In our cohort, patients' age ranged from 10 to 88 years, with a mean and a median age of 47 and 15 years old, respectively. As you can see on the figure, here the most affected age group of nasopharyngeal cancer was 40 to 54 years old by 41.1%, followed by 55 to 69 years old by 25.6%. Another thing you can notice here is that this type of cancer also affects young people aged 10 to 24 years old. So our results regarding sex and age converge with the literature data. Although patients in our cohort had several clinical signs at the time of diagnosis, 4 symptoms made the difference. Cervical mass was the most common clinical signs caused by lymphadenopathy, followed by rhinological signs, otological signs, and headaches, respectively. The eye signs and neurological signs were rare. So the undifferentiated carcinoma, also named UCNT, is the most frequent histological type of NPC, representing 96.12% of cases. The other subtypes, such as differentiated non-keratinizing squamous and keratinizing squamous, were rare, representing 2.33% and 1.55% respectively. So these results were consistent with all studies like Widad et al. And Sheng et al., confirming that UCNT is the predominant histological type of NPC in endemic areas. After regrouping TNM classification into stages, we found that the majority of patients had an advanced stage of NPC at diagnosis. So the first thing you can notice here in this table is that no one had stage 1 of the disease. Overall, 17.8% of patients had an early stage, which is stage 2, whereas 76% had locally advanced stage, which is stage 3, 4A, and 4B. 5.4% of patients were metastatic at diagnosis, with bone being the most common site of metastasis. At diagnosis, Marnouche et al. And Mack et al. Found that 85.5% and 66.1% of patients had an advanced stage of NPC respectively. These results confirm that nasopharyngeal carcinoma is indeed a late declaration cancer. The detection of Epstein-Barr virus antibodies and other serological markers is found to play a big role in early diagnosis, hence the importance of such studies improving early diagnosis. In this study, 81.4% of patients received curative radiotherapy combined with chemotherapy in initial treatment. Among these patients, 54.8% had concurrent radiochemotherapy preceded by induction chemotherapy, while 45.2% had CRT alone. All metastatic patients received a palliative treatment, mainly palliative chemo and radiotherapy. Wang et al. And Tan et al. Confirmed in their meta-analysis that the addition of induction chemotherapy to CRT to treat advanced stages of NPC improves overall and progression-free survival. According to several studies, the use of intensity-modulated radiotherapy, which our patients used, instead of conventional radiotherapy, contributed to an improvement in local regional control and survival. Which brings us to the overall survival. The overall survival at 5 years was 86.8%, knowing that the event, which is death, occurred 17 times, including 14 males and 3 females. The figure here shows this overall survival according to time, which is 5 years or 16 months. The OS at 5 years was 91.3% for early stages, 87.9% for locally advanced stages, and 57.1% for the metastatic stage, with a p-value of 0.002 statistically significant. In other endemic countries, Mack et al. Found a 5-year OS of 70.7% in Singapore, whereas An Lee et al. Reported a 5-year OS of 75% in Hong Kong. These results were consistent with several studies showing that NPC stage is the most important prognostic factor for nasopharyngeal cancer. So, nasopharyngeal cancer remains a particular disease characterized by its epidemiologic distribution and its clinical characteristics. Our findings show that NPC is one of the most common cancers in Morocco with a high prevalence, a remarkable sex disparity, and a late declaration problem. Hence the importance of further epidemiologic and molecular studies as well as cancer registries. So being the first of its kind in Northern Morocco, and in the absence of a cancer registry, our study contributes to the understanding of this malignancy by improving the prevention and patients' follow-up. Also, this study relates to the national strategy for the fight and prevention of cancer. Thank you.